Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here with us. My name is Rita Boyce, and I am here with you today on this Giving Tuesday to talk about two amazing programs. I would like to introduce Miss Brandy Weintraub, founder and director of City Horse, and Miss Audra Barrios, executive director of Things That Creep. How are you all doing this evening?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Of course. So, just wanted to ask a couple questions just about, yourself, your background, where the both of you are from, and tell us about your story. Either one of you can start first.
Audra, go ahead. I was hoping you'd go first. I'm from the Bay Area, although I did spend some of my childhood in Mexico as well. And I am a biologist, and I love animals. And that's really what got me into this. Was my love for animals. And I love all the animals, including a lot of the animals that other people maybe think are a little bit weird. But they're all so cool. I mean, I'm actually a marine biologist, and I am fascinated with animals that don't have bones, because like anything that I thought that I could make up in my head already exists in a tide pool, like any weird thing. And same with reptiles. There's anything you can imagine. Like this is Turok. He's a caiman lizard, and he's got a red head and a green body. Like who designed that? What happened there? Why does he have a red head and a green body? So it just really fascinated me, and I'm just really excited to be here and share my critters with everybody. With everyone needs to meet reptiles because they're really awesome, and sometimes it takes like actually like touching the animals to understand how awesome they are. But unfortunately, COVID has made life a little bit weird for that. Brandy.
So, good evening, everyone. I am Brandy Weintraub. I am born and raised in East Oakland, California, and I've always had a love for horses. I remember as a child hearing stories that my grandmother and uncles and great uncles and aunts would tell us about, back in Louisiana, growing up on a farm, having horses, having chickens, having animals, and just how that experience really shaped who they are as a person. And um, I kind of got connected with horses. I was a little defiant as a young person, and school didn't really interest me much. Horses was something that I just felt I had a natural connection with. And every chance I got to cut school and go ride a horse, I did that. And I realized as I became an adult that there are a lot of kids that cut school and do a lot worse things than go and ride horses. And my experience with connecting with horses, it just gave me a different perspective on life. It gave me a different way of seeing myself in relation to the world. It gave me a different perspective on what I could contribute and the impact that horses could make on children who did not have the opportunity, whether it was financial reasons, whether it was access because of where they lived, whether it was a public school that had no animal science, no animal biology, or all of the above. And so my connection to horses kind of saved me and gave me a direction. And I wanted to share that with all the young people who have the desire but not the means.
That's beautiful. Thank you both for sharing your stories and a little bit of background. Tell me, where do your programs currently operate?
We operate in Richmond together. A curriculum that teaches Bay Area snakes, and it's really focused on the snakes that we can see in Richmond, the foremost common species of snakes. And we just piloted it for the first time this curriculum to King Elementary School in Richmond. We through their K through third grade classes. And it's a curriculum that was written to Common Core standards and GSS standards. So we really wanted them to like get scientific like knowledge and basics and words and stuff like that, while learning about stuff that's here. Like so many people don't know what lives in your own backyard. So that was really our goal, was to teach people what's out there, right? So if you understand what's out there, you can begin to care about it, or at least not kill it because it can't hurt you. So that's we're really focused. But the Bay Area, the whole Bay Area has the same kind of range of snakes. There's a lot of different types of snakes here. The Bay Area is actually incredible for reptile biodiversity. We have so much amazing stuff here, and we're like just approaching winter, the rainy season, and as the seasons change here in the Bay Area, the wildlife changes, and that is particularly true with reptiles and amphibians. So right now, this program is focused on snakes because people tend to be more afraid of snakes than a lot of other reptiles. But there is salamanders and frogs and lizards and all sorts of amazing critters here. But wildlife, Bay Area wildlife, Bay Area reptiles and amphibians. We also really like invertebrates, stuff without bones, stuff that, people may not know a lot about, so they might get uncomfortable or just not understand it, is really what we've been focusing on.
Awesome. And what about you, Brandy? Where does your program currently operate?
So City Horse is a little different than your typical sort of lesson program. We are not a place-based program. And the reason that we are not a place-based program, meaning that City Horse can exist wherever there is a stable and there is a school or a set of school children that want to be connected. City Horse fills a gap where there is a lot of conversation about STEM, but one key main factor that they leave out is animal science and animal biology. So one of the reasons that I'm here with Audra and Things That Creep is because I really love horses, and that is like my super passion. But I have kids that are interested in all kinds of things. So they're interested in horses, they're interested in frogs, they're interested in pigs and goats and lizards and all kinds of things. So we want to be a resource for kids who are interested in whatever animal, whatever reptile they can possibly imagine. So right now we have a program that is actually operating in Castro Valley. We have done a program out in LaGrange. We have done a program in American Canyon. And so basically, we would bring small groups of students together, ideally for at least one full school year. So when students connect with City Horse, I basically guarantee them a couple of things. So if you are participating in City Horse and you are receiving some kind of academic credit, whether that is animal science, animal biology, which they don't typically have, especially in Oakland Public Schools, you'll have something more like a anatomy, a biology, a PE class, which would also qualify. Then City Horse is committed to paying for your time at the ranch. Now we do have students that reach out, parents that reach out to us. We have a waiting list as long as my arm for students and parents who are interested in starting with the City Horse program. But unless I can give them a commitment of a full school year, we don't bring additional students in, because what happens is that we give them a little bit of taste of what it's like. We give them a chance to set up a routine to come out to the ranch, and then it just stops. And they don't get the connection any longer. And that's just not fair. That's just not fair to kids, especially when, the reason that I do what I do is not only to introduce them to the horses and the animals, but it's also to inspire them to think differently about school, for them to think differently about, do I really want to cut class today? Because if I cut class, then Miss Weintraub probably is not going to be too happy with me when we show up for our Wednesday lesson or for our Friday lesson, because all of that goes hand in hand. Your character is important. How you interact with the horses is important. How you treat yourself is important. And I think we can see on the screen here, we have a young man who was actually introduced to a rescue horse. And so this horse had been abused, and it was going through the process of just learning how to trust people again. And he kind of took to this horse. We don't go and say, this one's for you, that one's for you. We kind of let the kids decide. And so at this point, City Horse is not operating. How we typically raise our money is out in the community, doing fundraisers, doing community, doing festivals. We have booths at little fairgrounds. And so we actually raise money by going out and talking to the community about what we do, telling them why it's important, and asking if they would support us. But because of COVID, our last program, our official program, was at the beginning of March. And so because of that, we have not been able to go out into the community the way we would normally do. And we have not been able to raise the funding that we would normally raise. And that is kind of devastating. And so that is one reason why we are here with you on Giving Tuesday, in hopes that you would support our programs, in hopes that you would ask your friends and family to donate to City Horse, so that our kids that are looking forward, once we're able to go back to the classroom, can resume their connections with their horses and start their programs again.
That's beautiful. Thank you to the both of you for answering that question. I just wanted to know a little bit more about, since it is Giving Tuesday and we're hoping to expand these programs, what would, people and our neighbors' donations be going towards, once we're back out in the world and actually expanding these programs?
Well, we've actually switched to virtual programming, which has been a challenge in itself, because we currently house the animals at a different business's space, and because it's a really small space, we can't do virtual programs and animal care at the same time. It's like the reptile space. So we're really limited in the time and days that we can do virtual programming. And so what we're hoping to do is actually build a classroom space into the building that we're renting. So rent more of the building and put in a classroom space that will house the program animals and host the virtual programs, so that we have more time available to do these virtual programs. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing this Giving Tuesday and through the month of December. And we're hoping to start construction in just about a week or so on this project. So all donations from Giving Tuesday are going to go directly to helping us build this physical space to do our virtual programming. And so the Neighborhood Snakes program, the curriculum that we designed, that we just piloted, we're going to be releasing that and it'll be available. And then we're going to also be hosting virtual programs once a week as part of this curriculum as well, where the same group of students can come in once a week. And it's by grade level. So having the space to actually be able to do these virtual programs is really going to help us expand what we're doing. And actually, it's been a blessing and a curse, because all of our programs before were in person. The kids got to touch the animals, and you make a different connection, right, in real life than on the screen. So that's been a challenge in itself. But now we can do programs for people anywhere, which we couldn't do before. So, we've done some at like 6, 7 in the morning for people in India. So that's really fun. And they have a whole different type of snakes. They have cobras, and so they have other things that they're thinking about when they think about reptiles. So it was really fun. And so we've been able to really expand what we're doing because we've moved to the virtual format. So, we're adjusting, and it's been an adjustment. It's been a really tough year. But it has been for everybody, and so we thank you for just, even taking the time to just watch this today. And thanks.
We have a question in the queue.
Yes.
I can't see it.
It's still there?
Yeah. Oh,
What does it mean for the kids to overcome their fear of animals that are big or may bite or are simply new to them? Well, Audra, do your animals bite? Because my sweet little horsies don't bite.
Anything with a mouth can bite.
That's true. That is very true. Yes.
And then also, like, a wild animal is different than a captive animal, right? If you go up and you pet a wild horse, it's gonna not be happy about it. Same thing, if you go up and you grab a snake in the wild, it's gonna have a different reaction than if you're meeting a snake that is a captive animal. It's always lived in captivity, was born in captivity. It's always used to people. So that's a big distinction. But once a kid understands, or anybody understands, that if you have this relationship with an animal, like, they're awesome, like, you just have to build that. And you can't just grab an animal from the wild and have that. And you have to understand that, that's when an animal will bite you. If you grab it in the wild, it's going to be like, you're a predator, because humans are pretty terrible to animals in the wild. And they know that. They want to get out of the situation. So I think that for a kid to overcome their fear of a new animal is huge, because it's just understanding what an animal's doing. And it's just practice and learning.
Right. I totally agree. I think that there are some learned behaviors that we have that teach us how to treat people. And there are some behaviors that teach us how to treat our pets, how to treat new people, new situations, new encounters. And I think that, with a little kid that has a huge horse, that, that interaction in teaching them how to create that mutual respect for the horse. And we call that horse language, horse behavior, because they can't speak, they can't talk to you, but they are clearly giving you signals based off of their body language. With horses, we look at ears a lot. We look at their disposition, whether their tail is twitching, whether they're limping, whether they're excited and rambunctious. And so we really look at a horse's behavior. And in addition to that, we show the kids that the horse is also looking at your behavior. The horse is looking at things that you may not realize. They can sense your mood. They can sense your fear. They can sense your anxiety. So it's not always about what you say or what a horse can't say, but those small things, the body language, the horse behavior, the human behavior. So we are teaching each other how to interact and how to get to know each other in a respectful way, in a lasting way. Because once you have an animal that trusts you, and once you have a horse that you trust, then you are more likely to spend more time with it, to be more loving towards it, and it it relaxes you. It gives you a sense of self-confidence and self-respect and self-esteem. I mean, what more can you say? You have these huge, beautiful animals, but even with some of the reptiles. Audra and I were connected through a friend who I believe years ago worked at the vivarium, and I have a daughter who just loved animals. She didn't care what they were. And I had this fear. Like, I am a horse person. I'm not a anything other person. I am a horse person. But because of my child, I had to come out of my shell. I had to try some new things. I had to show her that mommy wasn't scared, because if I was, she would reassure me at like 2 or 3 years old that it was going to be okay. And she helped me build my confidence. She showed me how to relax, how to not be nervous, around animals, particularly the reptiles. And that really built my confidence. And then also, because City Horse wants to be a resource for kids who have interests in things aside from horses, Audra is a huge resource for us. So if we have a kid that comes to us and they say, I want to be a vet. It's like, okay, well, what kind of pets do you have? I've never had any, but I know I want to be a vet. Never had a dog, never had a fish, nothing. But I know I want to be a vet. It's like, okay, well, what are you interested in? Oh, I like snakes. It's like, okay, I'm not your snake person. I'm not the one for the snakes, but I know someone who is. So if you want to learn about snakes, I've got that person for you. We started our internship program, which was actually supposed to be our second year of doing interns. I had some students from Castlemont. I had interest from Oakland High as well as Skyline, where these are students who are from East Oakland. I think I had a couple students from East Oakland, a couple students from North Oakland, and they never had pets, not even a dog, no fish, no nothing. But they were certain that they wanted to be a vet. So I said, okay, where do you want to start? And they said, well, how about I learn about some pigs? And so I found a friend who just happens to raise pigs and has all kind of other things: camels, pigs, zebras, goats, sheep, dogs, you name it, chickens, you name it. She has that. And so not only do I bring my passion to City Horse, but I also bring resources like Audra, who is a plethora of knowledge and sharing and experience for students who have, the sky's the limit. Whatever they can dream of or they can think of, I want someone that I can say, I have someone that you can learn from. And that is, in a nutshell, kind of what City Horse does. We have a little bit of everything for all the students. And if City Horse can't do it, we're going to find you someone who can.
That is beautiful. Thank you both for sharing your stories and your vision. Speaking of vision, Future State, we are here on Giving Tuesday to learn more about, how we are going to help these programs. Really, what is your future vision for each of these programs, and how do you see yourself hopefully in 10 or 15 years?
Well, since COVID, that question feels so much weirder. The like, what does the future hold? But this the Neighborhood Snakes program, I was hoping to build that specifically in a way that it could be expanded and just the species of snakes change, so it could grow to teach people about snakes everywhere and not just in the Bay Area. But in addition to that, other sorts of education and conservation projects, anything reptile, amphibian, conservation related, is really what we're about. Because what really got me into this was just starting to understand like the effect that humans have had on the natural world. And we don't even know everything that's out there. We haven't described all the species of everything, there's still so many things that we haven't even discovered, and a lot of them don't have bones. A lot of them are invertebrates and stuff like that. So to like realize that we're destroying the world faster than we can even like figure out what's there is horrifying to me. And I'm not trying to be a downer, but this is really what got me here to this point was, like what thing can I do that will have a positive impact on the critters in the world? And because, I mean, realistically, like the health of the planet depends on like ecosystems being diverse. Like, everything has a job and that's how everything functions. And, we need that for our health, for, our food, our water, our air, all of that. We need that to survive. That's like the very base of life. And if we're not taking care of that, then like like what's going to happen? So, and all of the things matter. Like maybe you don't love that one as much. Maybe spiders aren't your thing, right? Maybe snakes aren't your thing, but they all matter. They all have their role in the ecosystem. So,
Right. So imagining 10 or 15 years from now. So understanding that City Horse sees, and this is personal to me. So I remember being a young girl who couldn't really talk to any of my friends about, my love for horses beyond saying, oh, they're pretty and they're big and they're beautiful. But I didn't know anyone who had a horse that I could connect with. And I couldn't get that from school. I didn't know anyone in school or a teacher that I could go and say, hey, teacher so-and-so, I'm interested in this. Do you know someone or can you connect me? And so when I think about students and I think about, initially I attended Davis undergrad and I was an international ag development major. I did not see kids who looked like me. I did not see adults, specifically Black girls or boys, that were in the vet programs, that were in the animal biology programs, that were in the horse barns. It was just Brandy. And what I realized is that our schools don't even give us the chance out the gate. So if you attend a Skyline, you attend an Oakland High, you attend an Oakland Tech or a Castlemont, you're not even ready to enter a vet program. You are behind the eight ball. You'll usually have to go to a Sonoma State. That's the closest animal science program that you're going to get, a preparatory animal science program. They're not like a Davis or San Luis Obispo, but you will be able to prepare. They don't have animal biology gate classes at our inner city high schools. And so if you are a young Black or brown person who is interested in becoming a veterinarian and getting into farming, getting into ranching, we have these urban gardens and that's great. But most kids still don't understand where food comes from. They still don't understand how that steak gets on your plate. They still don't understand, why it's important to conserve, why it's important to know, what that process is like, what the food systems process is. Where's your food grown? Who takes care of those animals when you send them to people mostly have cats and dogs in the cities. So when you send them to the vet, you pay the vet bill, you might get their medication, but you really don't have any idea as to what that vet does to help your dog or your cat. And the gap of understanding is even greater when you look at the ag world. There's so much opportunity where we have these kids that code. Okay, well, who do you think codes, the software that determines how much we can conserve water on an almond crop? Who do you think does that coding? There's someone who does that. Who do you think does the coding when you are deciding, okay, well, based on the time of the year, based on the nutrient in the soil, this is the process that I need to plant. It needs to go potatoes, it needs to go corn, it needs to go sweet peas, because each of those vegetables provide a different nutrient and mineral that actually nourishes your soil, right? So kids aren't going to know that. Where are they going to find that information out from? They're not. And so when I had an opportunity to look around, when people say, well, how did you come up with City Horse as a city planning master student? That makes no sense. Well, it makes perfect sense, because at a certain point in East Oakland, I just looked around. I looked around and I asked myself, who decides why that shopping mall is over there? Who decides why there's a liquor store on every corner? Who decides that? Who makes those decisions? Because I know I didn't. I know my family didn't. I don't know anyone who did. And so my next set of questions was, okay, so why isn't there any stables in my neighborhood? Why are they all up on the hill? Why aren't there any down here? It would seem like it would be safer to have them on the flatland than up in the hill, but somebody makes those decisions. Somebody decided that we are going to move things in one direction or another. And so as an undergrad, meeting students that came from Germany and Italy who were sent by their families because, to study viticulture. They had wineries and they had, they grew alfalfa and they grew different crops. And so their families were sending them to Davis to learn the next generation technology, the next, because at that time, and it still is, everything was about water. How do you conserve water? How do you grow the healthiest plant with the least amount of water, the least amount of pesticides? And so I would meet a ton of kids that would come from overseas to learn about these things, but there were no Black and brown kids that were in my program that were ag majors that were learning that. That was completely foreign. And I had to ask myself, why? That's not by default. That's by design. And so when I went to UCLA, I basically did the same thing. I looked at a lot of maps. I looked at where stables were. I looked at different access points. So can you get there by car? Can you get there by bus? Can you get there by train? What are the different modes of transportation? Can you ride your bike there? And what I found were some beautiful things and then some things that weren't as encouraging. So the beautiful thing is that there were stables all around. In urban planning, they talk about the urban fringe, where you have a lot of tall buildings and a lot of apartment buildings and a lot of single family homes. And then as you get outside of this concentric zone, which is kind of, back in the day, it was like 12 miles by 12 miles. When you get outside of that, then that's where you have your vegetables being grown. That's where you have your livestock. That's where you have your small animals, your small animal farms. That's where most of your vets come from, your FFA folks, your 4-H folks. That's where you have all of those people on the fringe. And it's not that far. That's a Castro Valley. That's a San Ramon. That's a Brentwood. To the north, that's a Sonoma, a Petaluma. To the east, that is a Sacramento. So it's not that far from us, where we still have these things available. It's just that most kids don't know, and they don't have the money to access them. And then, the horse world and animal world is a little bit interesting, because even if you have the money, you don't have somebody to make that introduction for you, which is just as important as having the money, right? So I could roll up in my fancy truck with a $1 zillion, and as long as I'm paying, they'll teach me something. But are they going to teach me how to think about it? Are they going to teach me how to think about myself in relation to it? Are they going to help me think about different career opportunities? Like, who's going to help me think about me in this place, in this space? What does that mean? What am I contributing to this? How is it changing me? How am I changing it? You're not going to get that understanding unless you have someone who can not only introduce you, but then help you digest it all. at the same time, right? And so City Horse is really for those kids who aren't growing up in Brentwood, who aren't growing up in Sonoma, who still have a desire. You know, we have pre-vet kids at Berkeley who have never, you know, had a chance to handle goats or pigs. They go, and it's not a terrible thing, but I know that there are kids who want to do something other than dogs and cats. There are kids, there are pre-vet students who want to do large animals, who want to do equine, who want to do farm animals, the cows, the pigs, the goats. They want to do that, but they don't have a place to go to practice, to learn. And so luckily, City Horse does. We have those connections. We have those places with people who know about the snakes, who know about the skinks. I didn't even know what a skink was. Like, a skink? What's that? Well, it's kind of like a salamander, but then it's got like this slick coating on it. This, I think, you know, but I mean, it's one where I understand growing up in an urban city that there are things that kids just don't get by default of where they've grown up. But because they are so close to those things in relation to where they live, they're all on the fringe, that we have the opportunity to make those connections. So it's not about City Horse. City Horse is the facilitator. City Horse is the one that says, hey, I have these students, I have this stable. My goal is when I create a connection with a stable, with students and animals, that I teach them how to talk to each other. I teach them how to facilitate a program. All of our students must get some kind of academic credit. That is a must. In order for City Horse to pay for it and for you to participate, you must be getting some kind of academic credit. And in doing so, that's changing how you think about school. That's encouraging you to go to school every day and stay connected, and making you excited to be there because you know that at least once a week, maybe twice a week, you're going to spend a day out at the barn. You're not going to have to sit in those walls of this building with the same old repetition that gets boring, and you have something to be excited about. And you also have other opportunities that are going to give you a different way of thinking about yourself and what's possible. Sorry, that was long-winded, but yeah.
No worries. That was amazing, Brandy. It's really great to hear that you're, bringing these kids a new opportunity. And I think that is really important. I think actually you were the first one to introduce me to my first like live horse. I've been on a pony before, but that's not the same thing.
Right?
And it was an amazing experience to be around, such a gentle giant, and it really kind of changes you. I wanted to have you guys talk about, how you think how these programs are really helping kids see the world in a different way. If you guys want to be able to explain a little bit about that.
I think that animals create this connection to the rest of the natural world that you can't really get anywhere else. And once you make a connection with an animal in that way, it kind of changes the way that you look at all the animals. So I think that through programming these, animal programming that introduces people to animals in a different way, you're really connecting the ecosystems of the world. Like everything is connected, right? So you live in this house, so you think that you don't live in nature, but it's outside, and some of it's inside too. But like right around you, there is this whole amazing thing happening. When it rains, I lived in Richmond for 10 years, and Bart literally shakes my house when it would go by. Like it's so urban. I moved there and I was like, there's no way there's anything alive. Like everything is cement. There was nothing in the backyard. It was just dirt and cement. And, you know, we put in plants, and by the time the rains had come, you know, 6 months after we had moved in, there were salamanders that were coming out at night, all sorts of salamanders. So there's tons of life, even in the most urban areas. And the little things that we do on a daily basis affect the animals that live around us. So understanding what's around us, and then understanding what things we can do to support wildlife and to support this habitat that lives around us, and, you know, help it survive, because realistically, like, habitat destruction is wiping out most of the habitat of the world, you know, and that's just where we're at. And if we can do little things to support the stuff that lives around us, we can help create a healthy ecosystem. And our goals really for the next 3 to 5 years is to open a nature center space in the city of Richmond, where we can create a program in conjunction with a high school where students can come in and actually do animal care on the reptiles and amphibians, because we have a lot of animal ambassadors. So the toad, we have 3 of these. These are Asian river toads that you can see on the website all the way to the left. And toad's an amphibian. And these guys that we have actually are the first time these toads have ever been bred in captivity. They were bred by the California Academy of Sciences. And these guys just turned 1 year old, and they've been with us for about 8 months now, and they're getting huge. These toads get about this big, and so we're really fortunate to you know, have some really amazing animal ambassadors that most people never get to see in real life, and we bring them out to classrooms and to events, and you know, now virtually you get to see them as they pee on me while I'm doing programs and stuff. You get the whole thing, because, you know, an animal's going to go and an animal's going to go. And a couple more of our animal ambassadors on here are Darwin, our white-throat monitor lizard on the bottom, sticking out his tongue. And then these scales on the right, on the blue, that's the most common lizard you can find in the Bay Area. It's the blue-belly lizard. And some of them have some amazing scales when you look up close. And it's hard to see with your naked eye, but when you look at an animal up really, really, really close, you can see really, really cool stuff that you might not have seen before. And the king snake on the bottom left and the gopher snake, those are both found behind our building, as well as the gopher snake up on the top. So we have where our animals are currently housed, where we want to build this virtual classroom space, is actually in Castro Valley. And we are right next to an oak forest. So we get all sorts of critters in there. And part of what we did for our curriculum is I got a camera trap. So it's this camera, you set it up and motion sets it off. And we built a habitat and put a little water bowl and set it up to see what would come, check out the water. If we added water to the habitat, what would happen? And so there's just so much wildlife that we got all sorts of fun stuff. Unfortunately, no snakes, which is what we were hoping for, but we had lizards living in the habitat. There was a little raccoon that came and washed his hands, tons of birds. So just one little change that, you can make, can really benefit a ton of animals. And it's really water, right? They need water, shelter, food, the basics. And if they have water, then all the rest can kind of go from there.
Wow.
And Brandy, how about you with City Horse? How are the kids able to get, a different perspective of the world working with the horses or animals?
So one thing I will say about City Horse and working with the animals, this is probably our third group of students. Some of our students that we started with were older students. They were in high school, and many of them have already graduated from high school, which I'm happy to say. And so we didn't really think about that. Okay, we're starting with 11th and 12th graders, and then they're just kind of going to be gone. They move around, and a lot of them went off to college, which was great. But it's very different to be a college student trying to do a City Horse program than to have school hours to actually do that. And so this The second group that we have is a mix of middle and high school students. And why I'm really excited about that is because now I get a chance to see the students grow over time. So now I have some students that that I can grow in the program, then bring in, younger and newer groups of students that will basically work hand in hand with some of our older students. That's Aisha, that will work hand in hand. I actually think she is the youngest City Horse student that we've ever had, when I think about it. And one of the things that I'm learning is that kids learn really well from adults, but they also learn really well from their peers. And so if they have other students that can share with them in their own language, how they do things, how they approach things, anxieties that they may have had and overcome, then I think that is kind of our next level, right? So my goal is to not, have students that kind of pop in and out of City Horse. Once you are connected with us, you are connected with us forever. Whatever we can do to help your career, to help you in the horse world, to help you with animals, we are here for you. But what I'm really looking forward to is to see the generational effect where we have students who are now teaching other students. I was introduced to a program years ago, and these kids were young. They were the middle and high school students, if even that old. This was probably 10 or 15 years ago, and they were out of Compton. And at the time, they were called Compton Junior Posse. Well, now this same group of students, they've grown up. They've all remained friends and stuck together. And now they are the Compton Cowboys. They are like doing so amazing for themselves. They have a book that they came out with. They have some deals with some of the large Western, not only Western wear, but Western dress, all kinds of apparel and things like that. And this is a group of students that I watched go from young kids to young adults to now adults, and they're keeping the tradition alive. And so City Horse wants to, have that tradition as well. So when I look back in 10 or 15 years, I want to see not Brandy, I want to see students that are teaching other students that have said, hey, come along with me. Let me show you something new. And they share it with their friends and they share it with their friends, because there's only one of Brandy. But if we have other students who understand why it's important, and it's not out of my mouth, I don't have to tell them why they continue to show up, but they'll tell their friends why they continue to show up. That's the kind of publicity that I want. I don't want Brandy to say, oh, City Horse is so great for all of these reasons. I want the kids to say why they stay with the program, why they've continued it, who they're sharing it with, and how that is kind of changing how they think about school. And ideally, if I could connect every middle school and high school in the Bay Area to a program like Things That Creep, that bring in the animal science in a virtual way or a hands-on way, I would be ecstatic. If I can bring every middle and high school into a City Horse program where they have either summers with the horses because they're in a traditional setting that doesn't allow them to take a Wednesday off or a Friday off to be at the stable, but they know every summer they can look forward to it. They know it on the weekends that they can look forward to it. Then that would be amazing. Now, if I had to dream really big, I would say that we need to tweak how we teach our kids. And is there value in having a kid sit in a classroom all day? So if we are going to really go into 2021 and beyond and take something new, have a new perspective, a new understanding how our kids learn, because we have a very monolithic system of how we teach our children. And we really don't cater to a child having the ability to, teach while they're walking around, teach while they're at a stable, learn. Some people would say learn on the go, but this is why we need to have many perspectives. We need to have diverse perspectives. And this is why City Horse and Things That Creep are so important, because I don't just want to impact the student, I want to impact the system also that teaches our kids, and maybe give them a different way and a different understanding of how to engage with our children and how to teach them in a way that doesn't force anything on our kids. And I think when you change up a routine, when a kid can come out to the barn for 3 or 4 hours, once a week, I think that little change in their routine, does a few things. It reduces the cortisol, it reduces the stress level, and I think it would give them some excitement. So, Audra is absolutely wonderful. She provides a huge resource to City Horse. And that is one of the reasons why I'm excited to sit next to her as she talks about all the amazing things that she's doing. I actually started a Giving Tuesday donation for Things That Creep on the City Horse page and on my personal page, because we could not do it without our partners. We couldn't do it without the resources, because any kid that comes to me and says, some people call me Teacher Brandy, some kids call me Miss Weintraub, but most of them will say, Teacher Brandy, I want to learn about some goats, or I want to learn about pigs. I'm going to get on the phone and I'm going to find someone that can teach them that. Or if they say, I absolutely love snakes. I had a kid who showed up to the ranch with a snake in his pocket. Scared me half to death. But I said, you know what? I know where you need to go, because if you're carrying snakes around in your pocket, you obviously have a solid understanding of that snake's behavior, that you're not worried about being bitten or someone else. But, I want to build on that, and I want to help kids build on that. And so that's why we ask for your support. We ask for your kindness and your generosity. I'm a phone call away. I'm not hard to find. If you have any questions about our programs or what we do and how we do it, I can't wait to get back out into the public. But unfortunately, because of COVID this year, City Horse is behind the 8 ball in our fundraising. So if you want to support City Horse, please visit our website at cityhorse.us. You can always contact me by phone or email, cityhorseprogram@gmail.com. I am City Horse Pro on Twitter and City Horse Program on Instagram. So I believe that your deductions are tax deductible to the fullest extent of the law. I have to say that part. And so, yeah, we would really appreciate all the support that you could give us in this time. So thank you.
Yeah, Brandy, we missed your City Horse's big fundraiser for the year, which usually happens in August. She puts on a really, really amazing event at the
Golden Gate Field.
racetrack, at the racetrack,
Yes.
yeah, Golden Gate Field. And it's one of our favorite events to do every year. And there's always lots of really amazing animals. And it's a great time. I'm sorry that didn't happen this year. But yeah, it's been a weird, tough year. And, a lot of nonprofits like ours are, just 1 or 2 people, few people, and a lot of just support from our community and our friends. Like, that is the reason that, our programs exist, really, is because the people around us, like, somehow believe in us, in our mission enough to, like, really support us as human beings to keep doing it. So just, big thank you to everyone who has donated or, has just supported us in all the different ways, from, just helping do programs, to doing animal work, to picking something up and dropping it off, all sorts of little tiny things done by so many people are like what make it happen. And looking at the bigger picture too, and that's what really gives me hope for everything, is just that there are so many little things and so many people doing good things that overall, maybe we can take things in the right direction. So just, I'm really excited to be here tonight with Brandy, because she's really been an inspiration to help push me forward and think big, and really move in the right directions. And I've always been really grateful to have her ear and her advice and her expertise. So thanks for inviting me on, Brandy.
Well, thank you, Audra. It means a lot, and you are a partner that I value. And I think that, no man, no program, no business is an island unto themselves. It really takes a village, and, we are going to, by hell or high water, continue to grow this village and continue to do the work that needs to be done, because we know why it's important. And even when it's not easy, we will make it happen. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate your ear, and hopefully you'll reach out and you'll donate to City Horse and Things That Creep, and we can continue doing that work for our babies, because they need us.
Yeah.
Yes.
And thank you, Rita. Thank you so much, Rita.
Yes, of course. I'm so glad to be here tonight to sit with the both of you and hear more about these amazing programs. I am really excited to see the future of both of them. And thank you to everybody watching tonight. Please remember to, share, like, repost this everywhere, to give on this Giving Tuesday as well into the future.